All right, so today we have on Congressman Morgan Griffith. Congressman Griffith, how are you?
I'm doing well. I hope y'all are well today.
We are. I think I can speak for both me and Ethan when I say it's an honor for us to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank y'all for letting me be on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So to start off, we do have a few questions to ask you, and I'll go first. What motivated you to get into politics?
Well, I was always a geek when it came to loving to follow what was going on in national affairs. I am of an age where we didn't have but an hour of news every night, 30 minutes of local and 30 minutes of national. Then you could stay up and get more at 11, but I didn't usually stay up that late. But I was a voracious reader. There used to be a lot of, as opposed to podcasts, there used to be a lot of magazines that you could get and read the various magazines. U.S. News and World Report, Time, Life and Look were on their way out at that point. They still published, but they weren't really the big newspapers. It was more the weekly news magazines that would come out that would give you world affairs. When I was in college, I started subscribing to a publication called World Press Review, which was fabulous. They went out of business sometime in the 90s. But that was a publication that took articles from foreign language newspapers and translated them into English. So it was a very interesting concept.
Yes.
Today, of course, the internet does all that and takes care of that. But I was always very interested in both law and politics, and just devoted my basically my educational track and my decision making on what to do as far as jobs related to being able to be involved in politics and in the practice of law.
So where did you go to law school at?
Well, I went to Washington and Lee University School of Law after I completed my undergraduate degree at Emory and Henry College. And I studied at Emory. I had done so much work on my own on American history. While I certainly could have learned a lot more, I found European history to be absolutely fascinating. One, because I didn't know anything about it. And two, there's a lot more to go through.
Yeah, that's true.
So I studied European history with a primary focus on the United Kingdom and Great Britain, which are the same, but just different times in history. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what motivated you to attend Washington Lee University instead of other local law universities like ETSU or
Appalachian School of Law?
Appalachian, yeah.
Didn't look at ETSU. Appalachian School of Law was not yet in existence. So the closest in Virginia school to home and to Southwest Virginia was Washington and Lee. That was certainly a goal. I also had historical ties to the university. Some of my ancestors went to Washington and Lee. Not all of them, obviously, but some had gone there. And my family moved into Rockbridge County, which is the county surrounding Lexington, where Washington and Lee is, in 1740. So there were all kinds of family ties to the area, and it just seemed like a natural fit. And then sometimes things happen because when you're young, you don't think things through maybe as clearly as you would when you get a little bit older. And I got early acceptance to Washington and Lee. I had the application for UVA sitting on my desk, but William and Mary was my safety valve school, the one that I had in case I didn't get into either Washington and Lee or UVA. I got into Washington and Lee the day I was supposed to be writing my essay for UVA. I looked at the application and I could as plain as day, well, forget that, and tossed it into the trash can over my back shelf. And I said, I'm going to Washington and Lee. Probably should have thought about it a little more because Washington and Lee cost a lot more than UVA. And as I was paying those loans back until I was nearly 40, I started thinking maybe I should have thought differently. But it was a great fit for me, and I got a great education and will never regret going there, except that it did cost more. And not coming from a family with money, that made a difference as I was paying those loans back.
Yeah.
And speaking of family, that gets us into our next question.
How do you balance family life and professional life?
It's tough. I try to do the best I can. My wife is very good at trying to keep things going, but there are times when I should probably be at home and spend more time with the kids. I started having children late, as you can tell by looking at me. And so I have a 23-year-old stepdaughter, a 17-year-old son who's a senior in high school, and a 15-year-old. And I say that loosely. By the time you broadcast this, he will probably be 16. He turned 16 on Sunday. But I have the two of them. I have a senior and a sophomore in high school, and then my daughter is in chiropractic college in upstate New York.
Okay. Our next question is about the 9th District, and I'll give this one to Luke.
Yeah, what makes the 9th District special? Because there's a lot of districts in the United States. What makes the 9th District special?
Well, I mean, part of it is that this is where I consider home. I mean, the lines change, but, I went to Emory and Henry, loved it. The mountains of Western Virginia are extremely important to me. I had an opportunity as a young lawyer to actually move to Huntington, West Virginia. And I was just like, I can't do that. I want to be, practicing law right here. And so I practiced law. I could have done politics maybe anywhere, but I can remember, always identifying with different parts of Southwest Virginia. As a kid, I went to church camp in what today is a part of Hungry Mother, but at the time it was a separate church camp inside of Hungry Mother State Park. I did that for 2 or 3 summers. Absolutely loved going into deeper Southwest Virginia. And of course, the folks in Wise would say that Smith is not very deep into Southwest Virginia.
Of course.
But I always loved the people, and I love the region. And it is a special region, and it often gets misunderstood and misrepresented by people in other parts of the state and other parts of the country because they don't understand look, we have lots of problems, but they don't understand the high quality of most of the people of Southwest Virginia. And the district now includes a little piece of Central Virginia, but it's mostly South Side and Southwest. And it's just great. And I love it.
And what are some important bills or policies that you're trying to pass that will really influence the 9th District?
Well, so much of what we do in the 9th District as far as bills is defending against folks who don't understand fossil fuel energy. And they want to say that, we got to shut down coal. And this is one, and I know coal doesn't affect Carroll County, but it does affect the district pretty heavily. And in fact, there are businesses, at least historically, out of Carroll, out of Patrick, certainly out of Wythe, that have done business with coal companies. In fact, Carter Machinery, which does a lot of equipment and even has facilities inside the Buckhannon No. 1 mine, is headquartered in Salem, my hometown. I mean, it's just wherever you look, coal does have an impact. The reason that Norfolk and Southern Railroad is here and parts of CSX, that all relates back to coal. But here's what people don't realize. If you want to make really good steel, you need what's known as metallurgical coal. Virginia has probably the biggest deposit of metallurgical coal in the east. There's a bunch out west. But in the east, we have the most. West Virginia has a little bit. Kentucky has a little bit. But Virginia has the most. Those mines aren't closing down. And anytime somebody says, oh, yeah, all the mines are going to close. Oh, no. You got two main types of coal, metallurgical, and then what's sometimes referred to as steam coal or thermal coal. That's what makes heat. Thermal coal is under pressure, but I don't think it's going away either. And further, for those concerned about climate change, people don't stop to think about it. If the United States stops using coal, oil, natural gas, it has very little impact on climate change. Now people say, well, but that shouldn't be the only reason you don't do it. And they're right. But if we continue to use fossil fuels in the United States, but push to get better ways to use that coal, to create better electric power generation through coal, to find ways to capture the substances that come out of coal, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide. I mean, all of these, if you find better ways to capture it, you're actually helping the world more than shutting down the U.S. industry in fossil fuels. And here's why. There are roughly 300 million people in India, just as an example, who do not have a steady supply of electricity. They have small generators. They charge their phones. I was recently in Kenya, and they charge their phones off of solar. That's great. But you can't run a vibrant economy on renewables alone in today's world. Maybe in 25, 30, 50 years. But we're pushing to get rid of coal and other fossil fuels now. If we teach people how to do it cleaner, we help the whole world. India's president or prime minister is not going to sit back and say, well, let's not use coal. India, by the way, has coal. It's just not as clean as ours. Well, we're not going to use that, and we're going to leave 300 million people, almost the population of the entire United States, without valuable electrical resources. We're going to leave them in poverty. We're not going to let them have the ability to have the jobs, the health care, et cetera, that we have. They're not going to do it. So they're going to burn that coal. Well, right now, with the U.S. shutting down, who do you think is providing to sub-Saharan Africa, to India and other places? Who do you think is providing them with the technology to build electric power plants? That's right. It's the Chinese. Yeah. And they're using technology that we discounted or did away with in the United States in the 60s and 70s. So we're actually, by saying zero to use of fossil fuels, we're actually encouraging more fossil fuel use that creates pollution in other parts of the world. And we're not shutting it down, and we're not going to solve anything with climate change or global warming or whatever the terminology that you want to use is. We're just not going to do it. It's going to be used in those parts of the world that want what we have. I mean, the poorest parts of the poorest parts of the 9th congressional district, and it is economically, compared with other parts of the United States, pretty poor. The poorest parts are far better than most of Kenya. They're far better than most of sub-Saharan Africa. They're far better than parts of India. And you can keep going down the list. So if they have an opportunity to make their lives better by using coal, they're going to use it. So why not push to get better technology, use the development in this country, use places like Virginia Tech to find the answers? We're already licensing actually some technology that came out of Virginia Tech to India for steel production using coal that makes it a lot cleaner. That's what we really ought to be doing. And I forgot how we got off on this, but you got me going. Oh, issues that affect them. That's one issue.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Now, on a personal note for families, I'm getting pushback, and I'm going to lose this fight this round, but I'm going to win it eventually. When it comes to insurance, I've got a bill in, and it's getting ready to be taken out of the package. I got it in the package out of my committee, but other committees are raising Cain. They say I'm price fixing. I'm not price fixing. Here's what the bill does. It says that if your insurance company, and let's just say for the sake of argument, ABC Insurance, so I'm not offending any particular company. If ABC Insurance pays $15 or $20 for a particular medicine per a monthly dose, that when you go to pay your copay, if your copay is more than what the insurance company actually paid themselves for the medicine. So the insurance company is going to pay insurance company ABC, or going to pay pharmaceutical company XYZ, let's say $15 for the medicine, but your copay is $25. When you go to the pharmacist, your insurance company can't make you pay a $25 copay because they only paid $15 for it. And you shouldn't have to pay more than the $15 that the insurance company paid, because the insurance company is hired by you. You're paying them a fee to buy medicine for you at a cheaper rate and protect you from high costs. Why should they profit off of your copay when they're paying less than the copay for the medicine? That's not price fixing. Pharmaceutical company can charge whatever they want to. It's a matter of how much did you pay, and because you have an obligation to protect me from high prices, you have to give me the same price you got unless it's higher than my copay, in which case you pay the copay, and that's what the insurance is for. Insurance shouldn't be profiting off of copay. That's supposed to be just what it sounds like, a co-payment, not a profit center for insurance companies. And that is, I think that's going to be a big help to people in our region, but and across the country. But doesn't look like I'm going to get it this year. But I'm gonna. We just made the decision before I got on the call. I'm going to introduce an amendment and try to get it slid in on the floor. I will probably lose that fight, but I'm going to make them vote against it because philosophically, and these are my friends in the Republican Party, but they're wrong. You shouldn't profit off of a copay.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And
That's just a couple things. I got hundreds of things I'm working on, but those are two off the top of my head.
Yeah, those are great.
and speaking economically in Southwest Virginia and rural Virginia, how are you working in Washington to further our economic development at home in our rural counties?
Well, there's certainly a lot of programs that help and can help in rural areas. There's USDA rural economic development programs that a lot of folks can apply for that helps the counties. The other thing that we're always looking for is I'm looking for opportunities. I was meeting with some folks today that actually have no business currently in Virginia, but they had a little problem in Virginia. And I talked about our workforce, and I talked about companies that might be able to help them. They've actually talked to Hollingsworth and Vose about something that's out of Floyd County. But all of these things interact with one another, and I try to act as an ombudsman and cut through red tape if we've got a new business coming in. If we have an existing business that wants to expand and they need help with the federal government, I try to help there. There's just lots of things I can do. Now, economic development itself belongs to each of the counties and the economic regions that they're in. So there's a lot of cooperation between Carroll, Galax, and Grayson. They do a lot of cooperating, and if they want me to talk to somebody, they have to get the interest in.
Yeah,
but once they get the interest in, if they think there's some way that I can be of help in landing those folks, I'm happy to do it. I've let everybody know I'm happy to, do a phone call. I'm happy to go to lunch. You tell me what you think will help land jobs. And it sounds really going to lunch. You think that's going to do any difference? We got an employer one time into Pulaski County. This was years ago. I was in the House of Delegates. I got a call from the delegate from Pulaski County at the time. He said, "Morgan, this company wants to talk to Governor Bob McDonnell. And we can't get his staff to understand. They want to sit down. They only need 15 minutes, but they want to look him eye to eye."
Yeah.
So I got on the phone. I used what I called the bat phone at the time. And I was majority leader in the Virginia House, and the governor was there. And I got on the phone and I called the governor and I said, "Governor, I hate to bother you, but these folks need to look you in the eye or else they're not coming." He agreed to the meeting. Company's still operating in Pulaski County, Virginia. And so sometimes something as simple as a lunch or a phone call can make a difference in economic development. But the first line of defense on that, or the first line of offense in getting new businesses, is to have a site prepared that they can come to. And there are some. We could use bigger ones in that region of Carroll, Grayson, and Galax. But there's some good stuff available that's in the neighborhood. And companies will be looking at that. And the Virginia economic development people work on that. Where I come in is more on the other end, and then suggesting to people as I meet with people in Washington or even in my home areas in the 9th District, as I'm meeting with companies saying, "Oh, by the way, if you need something," this is where Hollingsworth and Vose came in. They do a lot of filtration stuff. And I said, "Y'all are talking about doing filtration. Have you ever talked to these folks?" Well, they talked to them, and the problem that we were addressing, Hollingsworth and Vose can't help with. But the company indicated to me they think there's another problem they've got in a different part of the country that they might very well have the product they need. So we may create additional jobs just because I'm out there saying, "Hey, have you thought about this company?"
Yeah.
So that's what you have to do sometimes.
Yes. Well, you mentioned earlier about a committee. Which ones are you on? You chair a committee?
I chair a subcommittee. I'm on Energy and Commerce. It is one of the more powerful committees in Congress. I would say the most powerful, but I'm prejudiced. It has policy over energy, policy over healthcare, policy over the internet, policy over manufacturing. It's got a huge portfolio of items. And the subcommittee, which I chose, and I could have possibly gotten the energy sub, I don't know, I didn't try for it, is the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. And the reason I did that is that in that committee, you get to cross-examine witnesses. You get to question them as if they're hostile, meaning that you get to ask them really tough questions. And if somebody objects to your line of questioning, as chairman, I get to decide whether or not I am badgering the witness or whether or not I have asked an improper question. I get to make that decision. And as somebody who trained in the law, that's an exciting committee. Plus, it means I get a little piece of each of the other subcommittees. So telecom, energy, healthcare, et cetera, are all in our bailiwick. Now, they set up a special COVID subcommittee, and I'm a little bit disappointed they did. But all of the people you saw during COVID on TV at one point or another have testified in front of the Energy and Commerce Committee and most likely the Energy and Commerce Oversight Committee. So Dr. Fauci and I know each other quite well. I'm disappointed in his behavior during COVID. He's a smart man. He should have known better, and something goofy there. And I'm going to work to get to the bottom of it. Right now, there's a full-fledged committee just assigned to looking into that. So I have to step back a little bit. I've been advising them on places to look, but it's that kind of thing. The CDC, the NIH, all of the medical policy for the United States comes through the subcommittee or comes through the health. I'm also on the health subcommittee. So either comes through the health subcommittee or the oversight. I chair oversight. I'm on health. I'm on energy, the subcommittees. I also got assigned this year, and this is kind of interesting stuff. I'm assigned to the House Admin Committee. Now, this is a small committee, and it hadn't done a whole lot in the past. Right now, we're being very active. We have jurisdiction over the Capitol Police. Think January 6th.
Yeah.
In the aftermath, not what happened on January 6th, but how do we make sure that nothing like that can ever happen again?
Of course,
is in our jurisdiction. Also, what else when you think about Washington, D.C. and administration of Congress, what else do you think about? Library of Congress, under our jurisdiction. All the Smithsonian institutions under our jurisdiction.
Okay.
So it's not nearly as exciting as energy and commerce. It's not nearly as powerful.
Of course.
But you get some interesting things, and I'm involved in a legal issue there now. They gave a sweetheart deal to an officer who I think, based on the evidence that I have observed, it is my opinion that she didn't pass along important information on January 6th that might have had the Capitol Police better prepared. Further, they gave her a sweetheart deal to retire and basically left her on the payroll, although they didn't pay her. She was on leave without pay for 5+ months while she took another job out in California, and that allowed her to get, my estimate is, millions of dollars in healthcare benefits throughout the rest of her lifetime, because that extra 5 months gave her full retirement from the Capitol Police, but she was making big money working for Berkeley. And so in my opinion, I don't think she did anything per se wrong, other than she made a mistake on leading up to January 6th by not passing on information. And I don't think the current chief of police who made the sweetheart deal did anything wrong, but I think his legal counsel gave bad advice, and I'm after him. I think he needs to be looking for another job. That's my opinion. Others will disagree, but that's my opinion.
Well, as we're wrapping up, we have a few questions that we ask every interviewee, and Luke, you have the first one.
Yeah, so what is your advice for young adults just making their way in the world? They don't really know what they want to do yet, but they're just really starting out.
I would say if you don't know what you want to do, take all kinds of different classes. I was not in that group. I knew exactly what I wanted to do the day I arrived at Emory and Henry. The second thing I would say is, even if you don't know what you're going to do, work it so that you get good grades. So take classes that you're interested in. And if you get into a class that you go, oh my God, this was a mistake. What was I thinking? Drop it before it becomes a part of your transcript. Make that decision quickly. Because what happens is, when you start applying for grad school or doing other things, or if you shift gears, every place you want to go is going to look at that initial transcript. Now, once you get out there and start working, the answer is work hard. You can go, for example, in law school, you can go to the worst law school in the country. But if you get out and you work hard and you apply yourself and you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to be fine. And I think lifelong education and being willing to work long hours and hard hours is important. It has to be rewarding. I'm not saying a life of drudgery. When I say working hard, I put in a lot of hours doing what I do, but I'm doing what I always set out to do, and I love it. There are days that I don't love it, but overall, I enjoy it. So as you pursue a career, make sure it's something you enjoy. Don't do it because mom, dad, your best friend all said, hey, this would be a great profession for you. Do it because you have enjoyment and you love it. And if you do that, life's going to be fine. You'll work it out. I mean, you may not make as much. I came home and practiced law on Main Street in Salem, Virginia. I could have made a lot more money if I had gone to a big city. Didn't want to go to a big city. And I've done fine. I'm not rich, but I've enjoyed my working years both in law and in politics.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And this next question, we ask everyone that we interview this question, and it's a little bit of a doozy, but it's kind of our.
We always get meaningful answers, and it really reflects the character of a person. And that is, what is the meaning of life to you?
Well, I think the meaning in life is to do your best, to feel like that that you've done some good things. Not everything in life is going to turn out the way you planned. There's always bumps in the road, and there's always another day on the beach to walk in the sand or to walk through the woods. In the fall and in Appalachia is just fantastic. There's always going to be another day, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep working. But the meaning of life to me is that you want to feel like you've done some good and that you have succeeded over time, because you feel like this I got right, or this, I may have lucked into it, but I did some good for the community. And last but not least, when you're doing all of that, you've got to be understanding that it's all part of a bigger plan, and that we all need forgiveness from our Lord Jesus Christ. And that whatever we're doing, if we're not working in some way to better mankind and reveal the gospels of Jesus Christ to others, then maybe we haven't succeeded. But I think everybody can do it. It's not nearly as complicated. There are very few Billy Grahams in the world, but each one of us can contribute in one fashion or another.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, Congressman Griffith, it's been an honor to talk to you this evening. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.